Nigerian court restrains multi-choice from hiking its digital satellite television prices. Federal government pledges transparency as 2024 oil block bid rounds begin. Plus, oil dips as investors eye Israel-Gaza truce talks, U.S. Federal Reserve policy review. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Neka Oko, your guide. The Competition and Consumer Protection Tribunal sitting in Abuja has restrained MultiChoice Nigeria, a prominent pay TV operator, from increasing the prices of its DSTV and Go TV packages. The three-man tribunal, chaired by Saratu Safi, delivered the ruling on Monday on an ex parte motion filed by Festus Onifade through his lawyer, Ejiro Awaritoma. Onifade had sued MultiChoice Nigeria Limited and the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, accusing the former of unjustly increasing subscription fees. The tribunal restrained MultiChoice from taking steps that may negatively affect the rights of the claimant and other consumers and rights of the suit pending the hearing and determination of the motion on notice. The Accountant General of the Federation, Dr. Oluwatoyin Medeyin, says the revised cash management policy is not transferring the responsibilities of MDAs to her office, but transfers capital expenditure final point of payment. Tokpe Alabi reports that this was at a one-day interactive session with MDA's directors and heads of finance and accounts in Abuja.
I must state that Mr. President is desirous of ensuring that the citizenry is served with zeal and determination by ensuring that the economy is properly rejigged for higher performance and value.
Let us be good ambassadors in our various formations so that we do not add any blemish to the name of the Treasury.
This program is therefore aimed at deepening our understanding of the nitty-gritty of the policy by having an open conversation with critical stakeholders.
The bottom-up policy was therefore conceived to address this issue of keeping some money or funds idle.
The present administration's drive towards attracting investments into the country is beginning to yield results as Indian investors begin to redeem their investment pledges. Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment says so far $5 billion worth of investment from India has been added. This was as Nigeria meets their Indian counterparts to strengthen trade ties in Abuja. Benny Adams reports.
Nigeria's exports to India have fallen by 56.22%, while imports from India also dipped by 28.83%, with trade deficit of $528.35 million in favor of India. This handshake is an expression of commitment towards diversifying the trade basket of both nations. While Nigeria looks to grow in trade volumes with solid minerals and agro-products aside crude oil, India is interested in ensuring that pharmaceutical products become more affordable for Nigerians, in addition to rail and road transportation.
We've had many countries coming wanting to invest in the free zone areas, and we have them all over the country, from Lagos to Kano, and we are calling on the Indian side to invest in that area. That is one of the many areas we are going to explore.
While conducting business and ensure that they do it in a very smooth manner.
Other frameworks to allow for ease of doing business between both countries is also being considered.
The issue of currency swap will be looked into, and the line of credit will be looked into.
Already, government says commitment made in India 7 months ago have started yielding results, with $7 billion worth of investment is already in the country. In Abuja, Benny Adams, NTA News.
The just concluded Special World Economic Forum centered on conversations around revitalizing global collaboration, inclusive growth, and catalyzing action on energy for development, with a special focus on Africa as it relates to energy. President Tinubu, during his contribution, said subsidy had to go to prevent Nigeria from bankruptcy, of which many Nigerians believe the present administration has bold vision that meets ambitious action. With me in the studio is Nii Akinsiju, Finance and Development Economist. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thanks so much for the privilege.
The African continent is rich in renewable energy sources, so much so that it is often referred to as the sun continent and has 60% of the world's solar resources. As a country with periodic challenges in oil and gas and even hydro for electricity, how much of solar are we yet to utilize?
Oh, well, we are still scratching the surface. If we're talking about renewable energy, throughout all through the spectrum of renewable energy, indeed. And of course, if you're talking renewable energy, you are not just talking about solar, that is the sun. You'll also be talking about hydro. You're talking about wind. You're talking about water. You know, so to a large extent, we have not in any way, done or made any appreciable impacts around that area. But again, getting to exploit the renewable opportunities around us is also has to do with a lot of investment. And to get to that point of investment, you must also transit. So what we have in abundance that has been considered as this transition energy in Nigeria is gas, natural gas. So to a large extent, I, for one, believe that there is a need for that transition so that it can be seamless. We just don't have a break from our dependency on what do you call it, on charcoal or the traditional energy sources. But we have a transition energy source, the gas that we have been using. We use a lot of gas. We are supposed to use a lot of gas, but again, because of efficiency issues in our thermal plants, the supply, especially supply of gas to our thermal plants, we are also being constricted. There's a need to create a threshold of efficiency in terms of delivery of natural gas to our thermal plants. And then when we are able to properly exploit, either commercially and efficiently, our gas deposit, which is rated at more than 207 trillion, cubic feet of gas as of now. We should now, of course, use that opportunity to start tapping into our renewables.
Now, the continent's hydropower and wind energy, in terms of geothermal power generation, is set to overtake Europe by 2030. Yet the energy access gap keeps widening. How can we leverage global collaboration to harness this huge potential for Nigeria?
It's just like I said, it's about investment. And I think that remains at the core of what the president talked about during his session, at that meeting, at the forum, it has to be about inclusiveness, about the developed world, the G7 especially, understanding the fact that the African continent must be an active partner, in the development spectrum, as it were. So to a large extent, there is a need for the global north, as it were, to continue to identify area of possible investment. And in doing that, they should do it in collaboration with active players in the African continent. So it's there should be that change from where the global north believes they know what exactly are the needs, of countries in the Sahel, especially. That's the African Sahel. When that is established, you have a situation where investment is properly pointed and, of course, properly and efficiently invested for effect, for productivity, and, of course, for enablement of business, which is important, very important. What we have had so far, it's investors even coming from the global north, not understanding the nuances of local economy and local needs. So that collaboration, which is the fulcrum of that forum, the collaboration and inclusiveness is essential, to driving development in the African continent, and of course matching up with whatever may be the ranking of the global north as it is now.
Okay, Nigeria and indeed the continent is in the need of more transfer of technology, more foreign direct investment, more capacity building for our people to become resilient and agile to external shocks. What do you see as potential gain from global collaborations?
Well, anyway, we are in a managed globalized world now, globalized economy. Some years ago, the mantra was open, unrestrained, unrestricted globalization. Well, I think there are new philosophy that are defining or redefining globalization, so much that first there is a need to understand the challenges, the prospects, and the strengths of the local and domestic economy in a way that is positioned, to link up with the global economy. Well, what is realizable here in Nigeria is the fact that we have, and just like the president noted at that forum, that we have a huge young population base. And not just that we have a huge young population base, we also have a huge young population base that is innovative, that is concentric in area of technology and innovation. So to a large extent, we have a population that is willing and ready, and of course inspired to tap into technological opportunities around the world. And perhaps most of us have not noticed it. There's this policy that the federal government had in many ways talked about. That is how to block the gaps being created by the so-called Japa syndrome, where our trained professionals find their ways into countries abroad. For some of us, that is an opportunity. While some people feel uncomfortable about it, I don't feel comfortable about it because, I don't feel uncomfortable about it because, again, the movement of our young professionals, into other countries, especially the developed world, is an opportunity, for technology transfer. They get to know and understand management processes and, of course, engineering processes in those worlds, and eventually come back, to Nigeria with that knowledge. And more than that, they are also remitting incomes, earnings, back into the Nigerian economy. But more than that, the government had now said, in recognition of this gap, that it will increase spaces in Nigerian institutions of higher learning, so that as we have people moving out, we are even breeding more. So hopefully, Nigeria may be a net exporter of knowledge, of professionals to the world. And that also translates to mean that you are creating a capacity for the Nigerian youth to go into the world as export materials to study what happened outside, I mean, in the larger world, learn new technology, earn more money, and of course, revert to Nigeria. It's to the advantage of the country.
Great. With the engagement in Riyadh and the recently concluded World Bank meetings in Washington, would you say the rest of the world has recognized the importance of investing in and with Africa? And what do we need as a country to ensure we not only attract investments, but also retain them?
Yeah, well, you know, in different manners, over so many fora like this, the president that I understood him had become the chief marketing officer of the country, and he has been doing that job very well and eloquently, saying the right things, positioning the country in the right perspective in the global world. For instance, the new mantra in Nigeria, I mean, that is being propagated by the president is to the fact that if you bring in your investment into this country, into Nigeria, you are guaranteed of an exit. Well, that was talking actually to our challenges, you know, earlier, I mean, before now, where it became difficult, relatively difficult for investors to exit the country with their initial investment. So you enter with your investment easily, you exit with your investment easily. That is a major incentive for most global investors. And again, there are huge opportunities in the Nigerian economy. The Nigerian economy is actually a low-cost economy. If you compare it with other advanced economies, and you also even compare it based on purchasing power parity, it's a low-cost economy. So when an investor, a global investor comes into this country, he is assured of returns because one, either at the cost at the level of labor or the cost at the level of land and all that, all factors of production are relatively cheaper than from wherever it's coming from. So, and even if you are talking about our securities, it's still cheap. And again, with the recent increase in the NPR, the monetary policy rate, foreign investors have huge opportunities, you know, to make huge earnings, as it were. But most importantly, you are not just bringing in your money, which you export, the capital you export into the country, but you are sure that when you are ready to go at any point in time, you are not constrained or limited. You can take out your earnings and your profits or your dividends, as the case may be. That is a major milestone that would have been achieved by this administration.
Okay, a quick one. What role do you see the private sector playing in all of this? And as it is a fact that government cannot do it alone?
An economy without the active participation of the private sector can't be said to be a prosperous economy, because the private sector is actually the engine room of an economy. And what's actually in most jurisdictions, and I think Nigeria is also growing into that, as we continue to drive an open market, open market economy philosophy. The country will allow the private sector participants to play more role and enable. The government would be limited to enabling businesses, so that it is easier to secure license. It is easier to have access to fuel. It is easier for you to. It is cheaper to have electricity, energy supply, and all that. So it's the enablement of the business, of the business environment that the federal government, the government generally, should be involved in. The private sector should be enabled in this manner, so that it is not just about having capacity to produce, in a cost benefit ratio to the local economy, but to be able to be competitive in the global economy where it exports its product. That is where we actually have the advantage, because we have a relatively small export capacity, especially at the level of our manufacturing sector and agricultural sector. So if we are able to boost these sectors, and we are also now capable, to compete globally, we will be making more earnings in addition to our traditional income earner like oil and gas.
Thank you very much. I have been speaking with Niyi Akinsijo, Finance and Development Economist. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us.
My pleasure always. Thanks so much for having me.
The fuel situation as at yesterday was even challenging as it was over the weekend. Most motorists whose livelihood depend on petrol for survival say the fuel scarcity is taking its toll on their families who depend on proceeds for their daily activities. Lydia Sampson reports.
Joseph Agus's frustration resonates with that of Good News Sunday, who is also a taxi driver. Mr. Joseph Agu is a taxi driver, and naturally he's frustrated that instead of being at work right now, he's spending hours at petrol stations.
The nature of my job is I'm doing this taxi to make sure that my family fit from it. And then the situation like this, at least we can get fuel easily to buy, then we can benefit from it. But when you queue here, spend the whole hour, how can you get money for you to feed your family?
You have fed the children because it's this thing that I'm benefiting for. If I don't work into this, if I don't use fuel and work, how my family will benefit?
While most motorists are lamenting the long productive hours spent at petrol queues, it is, however, seamless for others.
They are dragging. So whether we are going to get the fuel, we don't know.
How long you stay?
30 minutes highest.
30 minutes?
Yes.
Oh, you are better. I interview some people, they say 5 hours. So.
Any person will tell you say that 1 hour or 5 hours, in a lie, they lie.
How long you stay?
More than 2 hours now, since the queue start from this Bazan Plaza, that back of that Bazan Plaza now, that's where it start.
The petrol affected because of this holiday we went. Some drivers, they are not yet back for their salad days, and some drivers, they are not back for their Easter days.
Some say the irony of the situation is the paucity of funds, saying they are not able to fill up their tanks even after the long wait. However, with more petrol-filled trucks driving in and others waiting to discharge, optimism is high that the situation will continue to improve. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson.
Well, gold prices ease as dollar firms ahead of Federal Reserve policy meeting. Let's see how other commodities are trading this. Oil edged down in early trade on Tuesday after Israel-Hamas ceasefire talks in Cairo helped suppress market fears of an expanded conflict in the Middle East, while worries about the outlook for U.S. interest rates weighed on the market. Brent crude futures dipped 5 cents to $5.35 a barrel, and U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures slipped 12 cents to $82.51 a barrel. The front-month contract, both benchmarks lost more than 1% on Monday. The equity the first weekday of trade negative as investors lost 154.2 billion naira. The all-share index fell 0.28% to close at 97,879.94 basis points. A total of 277 million shares in 8,714 deals corresponding to a market value of 5,008 billion naira were traded. Data showed 5% improvement in volume, 1% improvement in turnover, and 32% in deals. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian stock exchange is 55.4 trillion naira. The session ended with 23 gainers and 23 losers. This is where we end today's edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Business Express returns Wednesday at 3 p.m. I am Neka Oku. Enjoy the rest of your day.